Hi, everybody, and welcome to a very special, spooky episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's celebrating all the holidays with me tonight?
Michael K. Hughes.
And first-time show guest, Kenneth Sanity.
Technically, yes. Technically, no. Maybe one of those. That's neither here nor there.
First published.
Yes. Yes. And Kenneth, and this is actually the only reason this is on the show is because of you. So why don't you introduce what we're talking about?
All right, so today we are going to be talking about one of the most seminal stories in the Batman universe, also one of the longest continual runs of Batman for a narrative. We are talking about Batman: The Long Halloween.
Book that never ends.
Oh, God.
You can live up to that name.
So those that don't know, well, this did come out in 1996 and 97.
Yep.
And written by, I had it in front of me, Jeff Loeb and artist Tim Sale, which I don't know who either of those people are. But
let me go a little bit more in depth on Jeff Loeb here real quick. So Jeff Loeb used to be one of the big Batman writers back in the mid to late 90s. He did a lot of the really big Batman stories of that time. And he would go on to create a little show called, well, not create, but be executive producer. He's very involved in the production of a little show called Heroes that used to be on NBC.
How'd that go?
And
it ran for 4 seasons.
Yeah. Oh, that's
hey, we're getting that TV movie, right? It's still coming, right?
It got reborn briefly.
I forgot about the 4th season. And yeah, the show wasn't amazing, but for all its flaws, it was a pretty cool concept.
That first season is still good.
Oh, yeah. First season was great. And the art of Tim Sale was featured very heavily in that show. He did the art for the character Isaac that was in Heroes.
Mr. Isaac.
Yep. So
no idea what you guys are talking about.
That's quite fine. But Jeff Loeb also went on to be one of the creative heads of the Marvel television studios. So he was part of the team that was responsible for bringing us Daredevil, The Defenders, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist.
I like Iron Fist a lot, but that fucking first season is garbage.
Yeah, and there was some race problems and some things that Jeff Loeb said and did, and Okay, so now Jeff Loeb kind of sucks, but back then, when he was working on The Long Halloween, this was a great story. It really was.
It's not bad. I did enjoy it. I read it, and then we didn't record this for a little bit. And then I'm like, well, I don't remember anything. So I went and I didn't want to read it again. So there's actually an audio drama you can watch on YouTube of this entire comic.
What?
If you want to have it read to you.
That was my experience with it. It's actually pretty well done for being a fan thing.
Is it a fan thing? It felt like it was real.
Yeah, if you check that guy's other videos on his YouTube channel, it's like live recordings of concerts and stuff. This is like the only comic book thing on there.
Well, that's really interesting. I'm going to have to look at that.
It's well done. Like, I thought it could have been professional. There's no ads in it. So I'm like, that's odd. But because, can't. But it's good. It definitely, if you're interested in this comic and after you get to listen to us spoil the entire comic, you can see the whole thing. Oh, there will be spoilers for Long Halloween, a comic that came out in 1997. If that bothers you, well, it's been 23 years. It's okay. And it's a Batman comic. Batman survives and saves the day. Pretty much, sort of. Batman.
Yeah, kind of.
He physically survives, yeah.
And this is also a sequel to it's a sequel to Batman Year One, which I never read. This is the middle of a trilogy that we'll never read the other one, I'm sure, at least not anytime soon, called Batman Dark Victory. And this is the middle part of this little series or something. But I have no interest.
Well, Batman Year One was originally done by asshole supreme Frank Miller. And that really focuses on the come up for Batman. He goes from being Bruce Wayne to being Batman. A lot of that was taken for the basis of the Batman Begins movie. And after that, there were some interstitial things that were done. Before that, Loeb and Sale worked on a 3 kind of Halloween specials in the Legends of the Dark Knight series. And because of those 3, they were picked to do Long Halloween. And I'd like to just get into the title right now, if we could.
Sure, we should.
Because No, just the actual title, The Long Halloween. My first exposure to this book was because it was called The Long Halloween, and Scarecrow is my second favorite Batman villain of all time. So I was like, oh man, Long Halloween, this has got to be like a huge Scarecrow story.
100%. I thought the exact same thing.
How'd that go?
He's
not
in it.
Yeah, he shows up. But instead, I got a better story than I was expecting, personally, detailing the rise of my first favorite Batman villain, being Two-Face.
No wonder you like this book so much.
Yeah,
my God.
This is an origin story of sorts.
It is. And, it's a retrofit origin. I mean, like, Two-Face was around before this book.
Oh, yeah.
But,
he's from the 60s, I think?
Oh, yeah. Like, Two-Face has been Harvey Dent for a long time. This is just like a re-updating as DC is wont to do. This was basically like a New 52 style
1942.
Yes.
Answer your question that you didn't ask.
1942. Jesus. Like,
Yeah,
I
he's
remember.
an old villain.
Is that Harvey Dent, though, or Two-Face?
Two-Face.
Wow.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
Well, even if it is Harvey Dent, I mean, Harvey Dent has been a staple of the comic for a long time, too. So I'm
When
sure
you
the
search
decision...
Two-Face, it says Detective Comics number 66.
Yep, that's what I got too. Wow.
Oh, Lord.
So, yeah.
Whew. So this was a fresh re-envisioning of Two-Face. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to see a lot of things, and reading this book now hits differently.
The first time I read it a month ago, I really, really liked it, and I kept telling Mike how good it was, and then I rewatched a video of it, and I was just kind of like, it's okay.
See, you know what's fun? What was fun for me when I finished watching it this last time, I went back and I watched The Dark Knight, and it's real fun to see how much of the story beats from The Long Halloween are in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight movie.
Yeah, that was my main takeaway from this. Is like, I really want to watch Dark Knight now.
Yep. And I did right afterwards, and you have a lot, even some that are like scene for scene, like taken from the book, like the warehouse full of, the pile of money. And Harvey Dent's eventual, like, descent into madness and taking the law into his own hands. Like, so much of this Harvey Dent Two-Face origin story does show up in The Dark Knight.
I did like that. That, when you do see that scene with the money, and I'm just like, 100%, like you said, straight from Dark Knight, and I got really, that got me excited.
Yep. And
I
that...
like Dark Knight a lot.
And yeah, and look at that. This book has a lot of the stuff in The Dark Knight. Maybe this book is better than you give it credit for.
Oh, it's a good book. I'm just partly being shitty on it because I can.
Fair enough.
It's not surprising they'd pull some from one of the biggest known arcs to put into a movie.
Yeah, and I was always kind of bummed that they didn't use more from it, but now it's going to be fine. Because we are going to be getting a Long Halloween 2-part animated movie.
Oh, yeah.
They just announced that recently. So, yeah, I am really excited about that one.
It's kind of cool.
Yes, that ought to be good.
The animated movies are always really good, so.
Yeah.
They really are. In most cases, they are better than the live-action movies.
That's not hard.
By far.
One thing that I thought was very interesting about this book, too, is it was pointed out to me, I was watching random YouTube videos that talked about it, is this isn't really a Batman isn't the protagonist. Batman is here, but when you really think about like the main character of the story is Harvey Dent. It's a Harvey Dent story with Batman being the one selling you the comic and being there, but he's not. It's not really his story. And for those that don't know, the reason why it's called Long Halloween is because all 13 issues, each issue takes place over the course of 1 month. So it's kind of like that. Each one's like a bit a month from each issue. As it came out in real time, it would have been in their world too. It's been a month that these things are happening.
So this whole comic series takes place over the course of a year, real time in Gotham City. And each issue focuses on a specific holiday in that month.
Which is cool. I mean, it's also interesting that the whole villain in this is not a regular villain. It's this person that's just knocking off mob members, with a gun, with a small gun. It's nothing. It's not. I mean, you have super villains in this. You have Catwoman. You have Joker, Poison Ivy, which is a terrible Poison Ivy drawing. And you have all these different villains, but they're not really the focus point of the story. They're just there to be there. It's all about the holiday.
Yeah, this is when they were still being used mostly as mob enforcement. Like the mob would come in and hire these crazy people that would come in and mess things up because they were, they could control plants or they had fear gas. At this point in the storyline, they weren't, capital S supervillains yet.
Yeah,
they were still like kind of tools of the mob.
I mean, I don't like if it wasn't for Batman Begins, I wouldn't even know who the hell Carmine Falcone is and who these characters are. Like, that's the only reason I know them is because of that movie, because that introduced me, someone who's not a big Batman fan, introduced me to those characters. And, again, I see more, like we've already said, more and more inspiration in this from that.
Yep. And then you got in The Dark Knight, you got Salvatore Maroni showing up, played by the brilliant Eric Roberts.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of mob, I know that was your favorite part, right, Mike? You just love Batman stories about the mob?
Oh, yeah. It's like, it's the best part of every superhero movie. You don't want to see them fighting people with superpowers, just guys with guns doing shady crime stuff.
As you could tell, it was not his favorite.
Yeah, well.
Oh, of course.
So I think the little supervillains dotted throughout are for people like me to like keep people interested. Like, hey, there's supervillains in this. See, even if they don't actually do a whole lot.
They all kind of do something. I mean, they all play small parts to continue the story, and so it is interesting.
Hardly a focus.
Oh, I do got. Okay, I can't be the only one. I really hate the way Selina Kyle is drawn in this book. I hate everything about Catwoman in this book, and I really like Catwoman. It's just, I don't like the way Selina Kyle looks. I don't like Catwoman's costume. I don't like any of it. I actually don't like the art that much either.
Her costume reminds me of like the bat person from The Tick.
Oh, yeah, it does look like Batmanual or Deflator Mouse, depending on which version you're watching.
No idea what you're talking about. I know what The Tick is, but that's as far as it goes.
She has an unlockable skin in Arkham City that's based on this one.
Yep, it sure is. And that's something else that's interesting, too. This novel is definitely referenced in the games as well. You mentioned the skin in Arkham City. Alfred brings it up, talking about it in Arkham Knight. I think it's in Arkham Origins, there's an unlockable skin for Batman based on his long Halloween appearance.
Does it have like the Spawn cape that just kind of rides behind him?
I don't know. I never really cared enough to play the game with skins. It was Arkham Origins, man. Come on. It was a fine game.
Origins is a good game.
It was fine.
Good, not great.
Better than the other one we got. I don't like Knight. I only played it once. I didn't finish it. It will be on the show someday. So
yes, it will. Because I'm going to lose all my credibility maybe, but Knight's my favorite in the trilogy.
So you're telling me you never played any of the other ones yet?
I've beaten all of them except Origins.
Okay, they all will be on the show someday. But so, like, her costume is just, I don't know, it's just a weird costume. Like, I actually didn't really like any of the costumes in this. I didn't like how Batman looks like he's been doing weight lifts, 20 hours a day every day for the last 10 years. Like, I don't like everything about I didn't like the art at all. I mean, it fits the comic, and it's still a fine comic. It's entertaining to read, and again, it's the 90s. But the costumes just, I wasn't a fan.
And see, the art style, that really did it for me. Like, this art style, doesn't have the clearly defined lines. Sometimes the characters blend into the background with shadows. And really, when you're talking about a Batman comic, it's all about the shadows. Like, shadows are everything to Batman. And the way some of these characters would just kind of like ooze up from the shadows in the panels, that was really great. I really dug it. And the thing about this, okay, I want to get into the thing that I really loved about this book, why this book is one of my favorites.
Baby bottle nipples?
Yes, the nipple silencer is a stroke of genius. But more importantly, it's a Batman book where he has to be the world's greatest detective.
How's that work out for him in this book?
He doesn't catch anybody, really.
I know, and that's interesting to me. Like, I think that's really cool in a Batman story where Batman doesn't I didn't completely think about this until I was watching a video, and the guy's like, he never figures out the killer. He never figures out exactly who was Holiday. I mean, they get somebody as Holiday or two people, but they never really catch the person that was the killer in the beginning. Like, he never figures it out. He's never able to put two and two together. I think that's really cool to see.
I like to think, and it doesn't really come out and say it in the book, but I think there were 3 Holiday killers.
There's 3, for sure.
Me too.
Easy.
It's only certain one did certain killings, but yeah, they have, if you look online, they have said who did what, where, it's all they all broke it down. And apparently there's a comment in this book where one of the characters recognizes who the other person was of the killer. I just don't want to spoil that part yet.
We will.
Oh, yeah, I'm watching that Arkham City thing you were talking about. That costume does not look good in Arkham City. I hate the purple costume on her.
You think those giant ears would like slow her down?
I don't know. And just the 9. All I can say is the 9. I mean, again, the art is fine in this book. It just wasn't my kind of art. But Kenneth is right. Like, it does do a good job of blending. This is a very noir story too, where you have a lot of you have panels that are just black and white just because, and you have a very 1950s, 1960s mob type book. Even if it doesn't take place in the 60s, it has that feel of the 60s.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not even
has that serial drama radio vibe to it.
Yeah.
And it's not even just the art style that's very noir. It's the story, too. Because, I mean, you got crosses, you got double crosses, the rare triple cross. There's so much happening that is all character-based. And that's why I really dig the writing here. Because they do rely on character interactions a lot to keep the story moving forward. And without that level of character-based writing, without having that trust in your characters, the story's going to fall apart.
Oh, and that money scene that you were talking about, I don't know if we mentioned, it's Harvey Dent and Batman who do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. Like they know what they're doing. They're like, yeah, so we're gonna hit him where it hurts. We're gonna burn his money. And it's just like, it's such a cool. It's definitely probably my favorite thing, and one of my favorite parts of this book. It really kind of grabbed me when we first started reading this. Another thing I want to talk about, one thing that was kind of weird, but I liked it, even though I don't think it belonged, is Solomon Grundy is in the second issue just because.
Yep. Good old Solomon Grundy.
I like Solomon Grundy a lot. I just felt like, I'm like, why is he here in the sewers? All he does is threaten some other random guy that Batman's chasing, and then he shows up later on and almost fucks up Harvey Dent until he says the whole poem or something. I just didn't understand that part.
Right. And see, that sets up that ending where Two-Face and Grundy have that interaction. And to me, it almost seems like once Harvey has kind of not become Harvey anymore, has become something else, the interaction between him and Solomon Grundy just kind of underscores that, okay, the Harvey we know is not anymore. This is a Harvey that is more in touch with villains, more comfortable with villains. And if he can get Solomon Grundy to calm down, well, what can't he do? And, you know, they pretty much go into exactly what he can and can't do at the end of the story.
One thing I did like that they do throughout the different panels, like they'll say somewhere the Roman is laughing, somewhere the Roman is laughing. I think it's a lot in the first issue, and after they burn the money, it says the Roman isn't laughing anymore. I love that. Like, just such a little. I think it's just the first issue they keep talking about that, and they also, I mean, they blow up Harvey Dent here in the early when you think he's dead. I mean, he doesn't die. Spoiler alert. It's all a setup, but I thought that was a cool touch, having that happen, and just all the mob stuff they do, even though I agree with Mike, mobs are not really my thing, but just everything that goes on with this, how it's such a mob story, it can be interesting. Like you said, the supervillains kind of sprinkled in. The Joker was another one where it didn't feel like completely necessary. I do like the idea that the whole reason he's here is because he can't figure out who Holiday is, and his whole theory is, well, we can't have two psychopaths living in the city, so I got to go kill everyone to kill him. It's just, I felt like
it's true.
He didn't need to be here.
In a way, yes, but also, I don't know, I feel like his frustration with that shows, like, that plants the seeds that there is no one Holiday killer, you know? Like, if there was one Holiday killer, Joker would have killed him already, but he just can't get a grip on who Holiday is because, you know, they are different. And even going through the issue, you kind of get a feeling that, okay, some of these killings are more intimate. This seems like the work of somebody. And then there are larger group killings that are like, okay, well, that might be somebody else because this person only usually does one-on-one things. So what's going on? So there's so much in this that leads you to believe that there is more than one killer. And it's fantastic. It's true detective noir story. Plus you got an appearance from one of the most unsung Batman villains of all time, Julian Day.
Yeah.
Calendar Man.
So after I realized this wasn't a Scarecrow story, I'm like, well, if it's all about holidays, then Calendar Man has to be in here too then. And he's kind of in a few issues, but I felt like he should have been a bigger part of this whole thing.
You didn't enjoy the Hannibal Lecter version of him?
He's kind of, I like his dialogue where, since no one knows what gender this killer is, he keeps swapping back and forth pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good.
And in the audio drama, whoever did the voice was super, like, they did a good job with the whole Julian Day, the way they talked.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, brilliant.
You should definitely look at that audio drama at some point. Just put it on YouTube and let it play in the background. You probably know the panel is decent enough. It'll still work.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. Probably as soon as we get done recording this today, honestly.
And I like the way Calendar Man's portrayed with this guy in a cell, like Hannibal Lecter style, and he's bald and everything, just like, well, that's Julian Day, but just like everything made me think of Hannibal. And he has all these cutouts from a calendar, like a little pull off the sheet, just all over his cell.
Mm-hmm. That one shot where he's listed all the holidays in February, and the entire panel is just him surrounded by those. It's a really cool shot.
I don't like Calendar Man. Like, I didn't even know Calendar Man existed until I played Arkham City, and there was an achievement for talking to him all the time. I didn't even know who he was. I mean, so, he's not my favorite villain, but this book actually made me care about him as a villain for the first time. So I thought that was interesting.
And it's great because, even though it sounds like 90% of what he's saying is nonsense, as you get closer and closer to the end of the book, you're like, man, he sure knows a lot about what's going on.
Yeah, just like Hannibal Lecter type idea where Hannibal knew who the killer was, or at least had an idea who the killer was the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very interesting. And I know I think I might have brushed past it, but we were talking about how the killer uses a baby nipple bottle or a baby bottle nipple as a silencer. Would that work? I don't know.
I don't know enough about physics, but looking at it, I don't think it would.
Yeah, I mean, yes, rubber is going to be, more of a deadener as far as, projectile speed and whatnot goes. But it's usually the escaping of the gas that makes the bang. So I don't know if it would work. It might, quiet a little bit. More like a suppressor rather than an actual silencer.
It just was kind of odd to me. Like, I could see it being for one shot, but due to listening to the audio drama, I'd hear boop, boop, boop. And I'm like, wait a second. If you did warn one, it wouldn't work anymore, I feel like.
Yeah.
I also feel like that wouldn't work at all because it's a baby bottle nipple, not a freaking... I think a silencer's a lot different, but, hey.
It's a Hollywood silencer.
I think pills work, too, for a silencer.
According to Hollywood.
Yeah, I don't know if any of that works in real life because I never really fired a gun, nor do I care to try. But
don't forget about 2-liter soda bottles too.
Does any of that actually work? I wonder.
Too.
I'm sure there's a MythBusters episode out there somewhere.
Yeah, I could just Google and find out.
Scorsese did it in The Departed, and he knows, man. Scorsese knows.
Yeah,
he says jokingly.
I know I've been kind of harsh off and on with this book, but I did enjoy it. I need to say that because just like all the interaction between Harvey Dent and his wife and how they set things up for later, I think is just great. How she keeps talking constantly throughout the book. She's like, hey, soon things will be better. Soon work will be better and we'll settle down. We'll have those kids. And I like that because it happens a lot. And it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense the first time you read this. Like when I went back and watched the audio drama after reading it and I know where it was going, everything makes more sense. Everything, there are so many little ties like with the gun about how they make comments. Oh, this is a small gun. It's probably a woman's gun. And they keep saying certain things about the gun and there's little clues they give you throughout this entire story that don't make a lot of sense until you go back to it. I thought that was cool.
I feel like you're kind of easing into the end here.
Not yet.
Like I feel like you want to spoil it, and you're not.
It doesn't matter,
and I appreciate that. But before we get there, I want to talk about one of the most shocking appearances in this book, to me at least, which would be the April Fool's Day episode where the Riddler shows up.
Yeah, I want to talk about this one too, actually.
Oh man,
I don't like the Riddler drawing in this at all. I don't like the way his character looks.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
It doesn't look great.
And after reading Jokes of War and Riddles recently, this Riddler is a piece of just wimpy piece of shit compared to the Riddler I just got done reading in Rebirth. And I'm just like, I don't like this.
Well, I mean, the Riddler's always been kind of more of a thinking villain, like he doesn't have strength. He doesn't have powers. He talks in riddles. He's kind of a joke character when you look at him from just the idea. Now, obviously, different writers, different artists have done different things with him over the years. They've actually kind of made him a lot more terrifying now. But this Joker was a simpler Joker.
You mean Riddler?
Yes, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. Riddler. Like, it was a simpler Riddler. Didn't really have much to offer as far as physical threat. He was clever. That was his thing. This isn't even the Riddler from Hush. Like, this is it's a weak Riddler. And you can tell that when he meets Carmine Falcone's daughter, who starts squeezing the ever-loving hell out of his head.
Yeah, she almost kills him.
Yes, she does. Like, Carmine Falcone brings Riddler in because, Riddler's smart. He's clever. He can figure things out. And the Roman wants to know who Holiday is, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And as a way of intimidation, his very large daughter, Sophia, is going to crush the Riddler's face.
Yeah, I didn't care for that.
Yeah.
It worked. I mean, I just didn't, I don't know. I didn't like his daughter, and all I could think of, the fact that her name's Sophia, I kept thinking, now you feel like you're making a Godfather reference to the director's daughter, Sophia Coppola. And that's all I could think of.
And, I'm sure there has to be some kind of connection. I did like the Romeo and Juliet thing that Sophia and Sal Maroni had. Like, that was kind of nice.
Right when you said Romeo and Juliet, I just want to start singing a song to you about Romeo and Juliet, but I refrained myself.
Which one, the Mark Knopfler one?
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I figured you were going to go Taylor Swift. I know you. That's
my head immediately, but I'm too tired to even do that right now.
Fair enough.
It almost came. It was there. It was on the tip of my tongue, and I was about to start belting it out, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, this was definitely the issue that sold me on it, because at this point you find out that it's more or less a murder mystery. You're trying to figure out who this killer is, and they keep jumping back and forth between panels of the Riddler and Batman guessing suspects, and it kind of paints a picture of how that person would have access to these people and why they would do it. It really sold me. It's like, okay, well, I got to see the rest of this through. I got to figure out who this person is and what's going on. It was great from here on.
It just has a couple slow issues. That's it.
But then at the end of this episode, Holiday strikes again. After the Riddler cannot provide the identity of Holiday, he gets unceremoniously tossed out, and Holiday is waiting. And this was just the best.
It's April Fool's Day.
The only victim Holiday doesn't kill.
But sure messes him up a lot.
Yeah, which I thought was weird how traumatized Riddler got. Like, it didn't upset me from the story, but just straight from the character. I'm like, you don't think you'd be that traumatized when this guy's a fucking mass murderer, but maybe not yet at this point.
He's probably not used to being shot at, though, let alone enough to make an outline around his body as he's standing in this dark alley.
And, I have my issues with this. There would have been multiple guns, because that's a lot of shot. No 22 is going to hold that many bullets.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're talking like a reload upon reload upon reload. Whatever.
It's the same thing for the hit on St. Patrick's Day. Like, that definitely felt like machine gun fire to take out the whole cafe full of mobsters.
Yeah, same. There's a couple scenes that wouldn't have worked by a 22 that kind of threw me off. But again, it's minor.
I think that they didn't want to talk about the fourth Holiday killer, Deadshot.
That would have made more sense.
Will Smith, right?
Yep.
Everyone's favorite Deadshot.
Hey, you know what? I really enjoyed the Suicide Squad movie. I'm not going to get into it now, but I've only seen the extended version. Every time I try to watch the theatrical one, I fall asleep.
I can't say anything. I've never seen them, so.
I've seen the theatrical, but that's it.
I know the internet loves to shit on it, so I'm going to take my punches where I can.
It does, and it's fine. Like, I'm not, even though I majored in film studies, I'm not going to say that every movie has to be perfect. I'm all for, enjoying a movie just for its, is it fun? Yeah, it's fun. Good. Yeah. I'll watch it. Is Batman a Long Halloween fun? Damn right it is. But it's also, Mike, I do agree with you. At times it was a little bit of a slog. Like, there are some slower moments.
A couple parts that I didn't like we mentioned briefly about the poison ivy, but mainly just mentioned I don't like her drawing. It's not a slog, but I just didn't like how poison ivy gets into Bruce Wayne and kind of makes Bruce Wayne make some decisions with the mob that he wouldn't have done with the bank, that because they don't know how to they don't have a place to launder their money. Like, I mean, it moved the story along, but I guess I just felt so off by her character and how she looked that it just kind of bugged me. Like, I like Poison Ivy a lot, but the way that they draw her in here, I just don't care for.
Yeah, her whole bit in this just felt like it could have been cut out, and you wouldn't have really lost anything.
Yeah, it's because it only serves for one purpose, to have Bruce Wayne do the bank, but then he goes against that a little bit later, and then you have Catwoman saves Bruce Wayne by cutting the leaves off his chest. And then and it brings them closer, because like in the story, he doesn't know Selina Kyle is Catwoman. She doesn't know Bruce Wayne is Batman, but they're still like like Selena Kyle and Wayne are close, and Batman and Catwoman are close. It's interesting, but I also didn't know who the hell the killer was for the longest time, because I would think it's one person, then things would happen that wouldn't make sense, and I'm like, is it somebody else?
And that's the element of a good murder mystery. A good, noir story is gonna keep you guessing. And this really kind of plays with Batman being the world's greatest detective. Like, this is a detective story. And yes, he fails. He fails phenomenally. Everybody fails phenomenally in this, except for the killers.
And also, they trick you in the story too a few times. Like, they'll show you different people doing the killings that aren't actually doing the killing.
Yeah, I think that was I was referencing in that Riddler issue where it's just painting a picture of how they could do it. But yeah, Batman kind of comes across as the okayest detective in this one. Like, like we said, he really doesn't solve anything.
Oh, and speaking of, like, a filler arc for this thing that I didn't care for was the Scarecrow stuff with Mad Hatter and Scarecrow.
Okay, first off, I will have you bite your tongue respectfully, sir. Don't you ever say an unkind word about Dr.
I like him a lot.
Crane.
I don't like him in this.
They make him more crazy than terrifying in this, I will be honest.
Like, I love Scarecrow in the Arkham series. I like Scarecrow in the Batman animated series, but in this, it just felt like you didn't need to have him, like where Batman gets gassed because he grabs a fake Scarecrow on a horse, and then Bruce Wayne is running around like an idiot, be like, I know, where's my mama? Like, it just... It fits because, it shows him kind of going insane a little bit, and he gets caught by the police because they think he's involved. Like, but I felt like you didn't need Mad Hatter at all. If you're going to have Scarecrow, but just don't, does anyone really need Mad Hatter? Like, he's not necessary.
He's just a knockoff Scarecrow.
He's just a throwaway villain, and he didn't need to be in here.
Fun.
My biggest issue with the supervillains in this is, like, they all almost feel like stereotypes of themselves, where Joker only spouts Christmas rhymes, Christmas carols when he's in the panels, and Scarecrow and Mad Hatter only speak in, like, weird quotes of things.
Mm-hmm.
And Riddler almost always speaks in questions. It's like, they just feel like boiled down versions of themselves.
Yeah, and then the Riddler gets drunk in a dive bar. Like, I love that, because that's a really good... I just got killed. What am I going to do now? I'm going to drink. Yeah, that's what I do. I understand it. I get it.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you're in a near-death situation and you're someone that usually has control of a situation, and that control was taken away, it makes sense that your first thing would be to drink, because that's a real-life human thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking from experience lately, because when my life has been chaos, I've been, like, especially when COVID started happening, I drank a lot of beer in March, April, and May. A lot of beer. Less now. I'm like, okay, I'm this is normal now. But in the beginning, I was like, oh, every night we're drinking a few beers.
I do not know what you were speaking of. I have had no adverse alcohol consumption during this time of quarantine.
It went through a phase where I was like, I had to have beer every night, and I'm like, this is not going to keep going, Mike. And then I started to, like, stop being it. I'm like, I don't, and it got better, and I'm like, I don't need this. I have beer, but I'm like, eh. I didn't like where I was going, and my wife even said something. She's like, "You need to stop doing this." I'm like, "You're right," and I just didn't buy it, and then I stopped because COVID sucks.
Big time.
But trauma. What I'm trying to get to is, like, I can understand the trauma what he went through that's making him turn to alcohol to subdue it.
And, like, the fact that he's just like, I don't even know, it doesn't matter, whatever. Yeah, why would Holiday not kill me? And it's just really interesting. That
the reason Holiday didn't kill him because Holiday only kills the villains that don't matter in this comic book. We just kill the mob family that don't matter. We're not going to kill any supervillains. That's all. I mean, you heard all our stories for later on in the future.
Yeah, because every time a comic book character dies, it is always permanent and forever.
Jason Todd.
The death of Superman.
Yeah, I mean, Superman.
He did not die in that book. He actually only got injured, but he came back.
That was one character you never heard from again. That's Superman. Oh, boy.
Hey, I covered that episode a long time ago in a very terrible episode. But hey, go listen to it if you're curious.
It's not bad. That bad.
Our episode, the book's fine. Our episode's not good.
No, it's not that bad. Come on.
Okay. It's our first comic episode, and I didn't like how it turned out. It's not my favorite. But then did we mention that every time Holiday kills, the person leaves items at the scene? From the Holiday.
I don't think we've covered that yet. No,
I don't think we did either. And I did like that. Like, I like how it a box of chocolates for Valentine's Day. It's a little leprechaun. It's a tie on Father's Day. That was cool to me. Like a little touch. I mean, to me, I'm thinking like that's a dumb thing to do. Leave something at the murder scene because they're gonna dust it for fingerprints. They're gonna do everything they can, and they're gonna figure out like, no, don't do that. But
yes, you're right. They are absolutely going to figure out the identity of this killer 100%.
You think they would? I mean, they don't. Well, I'm just thinking like in real life, if you start leaving things at a crime scene, they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna don't give them clues.
Yeah, but at the same time, this gives something for Batman to put in his trophy cases, because we all know Batman loves taking his trophies.
On purpose. I really like Gilda's just everything, especially after rereading this or rewatching it the second time. All of Gilda's interactions with Harvey Dent and the way that she is and how she comes off as a very, I don't know if I want to say damaged, but very just like kind of like a, what's the word I want?
She's a very sympathetic character. Like you're meant to feel, you're meant to feel sorry for her.
Maybe not passive, but she feels like prey. She feels like she's a prey in this story. Very much so. Like she's, at one point where she finds Harvey Dent has the gun that the murderer has in the basement. He's like, I take home evidence. Like she just feels like she's a victim and she's a very weak character throughout this whole story. And constantly she's talking when she does her interaction with Barbara and Jim Gordon, she's always being like, I just want to settle down. I just want a family with Harvey. I just like it makes a lot like her character, I think, is really well done in this.
Yeah, there's definitely several red herrings. Like all that stuff is makes you think that it's Dent, and then the clues are like somehow Calendar Man is getting out and doing this stuff. Like I like that it points fingers at multiple people throughout the thing to keep you guessing.
Yeah, because nobody fucking knows, and I think that was good.
Yep.
There is a one scene that's really that was to me was brutal, but I mean it had to be in here. Is when you have one of the mob boss, for some reason they arrest him and he's going to turn against Falcone for some reason. I didn't really get that. Why was he going to turn against Falcone? Did he work for Falcone? It sounded like, or was he a different mob boss family? Maroni.
Yeah, Sal Maroni is basically, I just forgot his name. Carmine Falcone's rival.
Yeah, warring families.
Yeah, very Capulet Montague. Don't start singing the damn song. But yeah, no, they capture Maroni. He's in the basement. He's gonna, start providing, evidence against Falcone.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Yeah, well, as usual, things end badly because poor Sal's got a stomach problem.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that ulcer, he would have been fine.
Oh yeah, I mean that poor ulcer. I feel bad for him.
It's a weird little scene, like where the Harvey Dent's assistant gives Maroni this anti-acid medicine to take, and they just let him have it up on in the court, which feels a little odd to me. And he starts coughing. He acts like he's all sick. You have Bruce Wayne in disguise in the background. And when I did like how he throws the acid on Harvey's face, which is why Harvey becomes Two-Face. And like when you listen to the audio drama, you can just hear the guy just screaming throughout this entire scene as everything's happening. You just keep hearing the guy just keep screaming. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man! And the way that this is done, though, like the way they're cutting between the Roman's birthday party and Maroni on the stand, like it's such a good thing. I really love the way that the art style is.
The way he throws the acid, I can't believe I'm going to make this reference, but it reminded me of how it goes down in the Batman Forever movie, where it shows Harvey getting the acid thrown on him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. I haven't watched that movie in a while. I need to go back to it. I still love Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face.
It's such a weird choice.
It is, but you know what? I'm fine with it. I mean, Two-Face is my favorite. I remember when the action figures came out and it came with a little replica coin. Oh, I was so excited to get that coin.
Oh, of course you were.
I was. I made all my decisions for a year in high school based on the flip of a coin. That's how excited I was to see Two-Face on screen.
How'd that work?
It actually worked out pretty damn good.
Should I go to school today?
Had a good time.
Tails. Nope, I'll go home. Okay.
Hey, there were some days like that. It happens.
That was my senior year. I just didn't go anymore. I had enough credits to graduate, so I had no point to go. There was no incentive to go, so I'm like, I'm just not going to show up anymore. I don't need to. I'll show up twice a week, do the work I need to do, and I pass. I'm like, I don't need these credits. They mean nothing. I remember that, but that's a different story. the whole like acid scene I just thought was a pretty good way. Like I like Harvey Dent becoming Two-Face because of acid better than I like him being tied to a chair in the building blowing up. I mean, I love that movie. Don't get me wrong. Like I fucking love that movie, but I really like the way they did this in here for his origin.
It's a good movie, but if I ever hear the name Rachel again, I'm probably going to throw up.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. I started watching Dark Knight Rises last night before I went to sleep, and I just, Rachel. Oh, God.
Yeah, there's a little bit too much Rachel in that movie.
Yeah, there's too much Rachel in all three of the movies, but whatever. What are you going to do? But once
how Rachel has completely changes, from one movie to the next, though. Completely changes.
Hey, man. Makeovers, glow-ups. It happens all the time.
Except both actresses are... I feel like the second... Why didn't... we'll get there someday else when we talk about Dark Knight. But this comic really makes you think of Dark Knight more than I ever did before. And as we've said earlier throughout this episode, like you can tell it was such a huge inspiration for Dark Knight. I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm okay with Solomon Grundy not being in Dark Knight. I'm okay with that.
It would have been a supervillain with actual powers. That would have been cool.
It wouldn't have been Solomon Grundy. It would have been just some guy some real big guy living in the sewers.
Oh, you mean like Bane in Dark Knight Rises?
Bane's not in Dark Knight Rises. That's just Eric. That's Eric with a gas mask. That's not Bane. There's no Bane in that movie.
I like that Bane.
What was Bane? What are you talking about? There's no Bane.
Oh, the Bane in Batman and Robin. Got it.
That's Bane. Okay, that's a more truer Bane than Dark Knight Rises. Oh, I fucking do not like Dark Knight Rises, but we will not get there today.
Look, the best Bane is going to be in the Harley Quinn animated series. I'm not going to lie.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, please do.
I want to.
I've seen a little bit.
It's so good. I actually paid money to purchase it on digital. Like, that's how much I like it. Feel free to cut this out. This is just nothing.
It won't be cut out. This is how we do this show.
It's flavor.
But after we get the scarring of Two-Face, or Harvey Dent, he becomes Two-Face. He goes into the sewer, finds Solomon Grundy, calms him down. They just kind of sit down, have a chit-chat. Then we find out that Batman has had this feeling that Harvey Dent is Holiday for a long time. And Jim Gordon finds out, and he's pissed.
Which is funny, because Harvey thought it was Bruce Wayne for a while.
Yep.
I like that. I like that nobody can guess who Holiday is, and Harvey Dent thinks it's Bruce Wayne. Or Batman thinks thinks he doesn't know who the hell it is. He thinks it's Harvey Dent at one point near the end of this. Like, I like how nobody can figure out who the hell the Holiday Killer is. I thought that was cool.
Yep. And even Batman decides to go talk to Carmine Falcone. And every time I read this panel, I laugh because Carmine Falcone's just like, you know what my people call this past year? The long Halloween. And then I always hear, roll credits.
Yep.
Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. But Batman goes to him to try to find out where Dent is, who's Holiday. And that just shows how Batman is really grasping at straws at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of cool to see the greatest detective not be a very good detective in this.
Well, I mean, this is still early.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I guess that's something that you really think about. This is really like his year 2 of being Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an interesting take, I feel like, on Batman. And it's near the end of this comic. I think it's issue 12 when they throw issue 12, the end of issue 12 where they throw what's the word I want? A twist at you. That's the word I want. A twist where when they're escorting Maroni and the Holiday Killer shows up and guns down Maroni and tries to kill the security guard, police officer, in this, full tech body outfit that a 22 would not pierce. And
you also know that it's Batman 100% under that thing.
And that's when you find out that the Holiday Killer, in quotations, was actually Falcone's son who died like many, many issues ago, which we didn't even bother to mention.
Yeah, on New Year's.
Yeah, which I thought was cool. Like, I remember going, he's a killer? And
I was really happy about that.
In that January issue, like when they show him standing in the balcony, I'm like, I wonder if it's him. And then he's like, pop. It might not be him after all.
It's a cool, where they try to trick you.
Yeah, and I really, really like the idea of Alberto being Holiday, because the entire time, like in the first 3 issues, he's trying to help his father. And his dad just like, no, go away. You're a good kid. Don't get involved. And he's just sitting there with his purple glasses like, I'll fucking kill all these motherfuckers. I'll show you who's the good boy. Me.
Yeah, which is it's a weird twist when that happens. And I do like I do like how you see Batman just completely flip to, like, he almost kills him. Gordon's like, if you keep going down the road, I'm gonna have to do what I have to do. Like I like that. Or I won't let you do something that we'll both regret.
And man, does this seem familiar? I'm gonna say it. Remember in Dark Knight Rises when Joker almost kills Batman, but Jim Gordon's undercover after he supposedly died?
Yeah,
boy,
I was just thinking that when I mentioned that it was clearly Batman and the whole guys. I'm like, oh, they did that in the movie too.
I forgot about that. We'll have to cover that someday on this show.
But they even did So in the Halloween issue, the original one, they kill, in quotations, Harvey Dent, only to put him undercover, and they did that with Gordon in that movie too. Man, they took a lot of inspiration from this.
That's what I'm saying.
There's one scene that it's in the last issue that bothers me a lot, just because I think it's stupid. Like, for somehow you have a scene where you have Carmine Falcone is at his house, and you start seeing a bunch of people are laughing, like, okay, the Joker's there, and you see Lee, like, okay, Poison Ivy's here, and different things are happening as he's trying to get through it because his house is under attack. And you have all the supervillains from this issue so far just sitting there at a table with Two-Face, Solomon Grundy. Catwoman's there for some reason, even though she's not really a supervillain. Like, it's a weird scene to me that feels unnecessary.
I get it, but I got a feeling about this. I have thoughts. I would like to share them with you.
No, please do.
All right. So this meeting was clearly organized by Two-Face. Clearly, because he's sitting in the Jesus spot at this villainous Last Supper. He's right in the middle of things. And this, I think, since they're confronting the last mob boss, and clearly Falcone is not going to come out of this okay. But this is kind of them stepping up out of the shadows of the mob to take their center stage. Like, this town is not about the mob anymore. Holiday has done away with most of the mob. We're here to finish it up, and we're going to bring Gotham a better class of criminal.
It feels like bookends too, because towards the beginning of this whole run, you see Batman, Gordon, and Harvey on the rooftop talking about, like, well, we got to bring these people to justice. Like, we got to prosecute them, put them through the judicial system. And then in this, at the end, he's standing with the supervillains like, well, that didn't work. The system doesn't work. I'm just going to do this a different way. Just to show that complete change from Harvey to Two-Face.
Just also, like the end of that Dark Knight.
Yeah. And also has a lot of, like, real life similarities, because at the time, there was a time with the mob when they're trying to, I think it's the 70s, when they're trying to shut down the mob, and, like, you'd arrest them, but it wouldn't do anything. The witnesses would disappear. People would forget that they wouldn't testify. Like, they would just buy everybody off and they would just leave. Like, it's a very real, because I watched a bunch of documentaries, and it's not that far off from, I mean, there wasn't supervillains, of course, but not that far from what was happening in real life at one point.
And, oh, God. When you finally see Two-Face in all his glory, that close-up shot on his face where he's flipping the coin and holding the gun, I think this might be one of the most disturbing depictions of Two-Face ever. And one that very much looks like the inspiration for his appearance in Dark Knight.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
There's nothing green. This is just a meaty skull that has been eaten away. There's nothing like comic booky or cool. This is one man who is half a burn victim who has had his brain just shattered by having his ideals thrown in his face.
Literally.
Yep.
And I like it. Like, I like how Two-Face ends up killing Falcone, and then he kills his assistant, who was the one that gave the guy the acid. And then after that, he just like, here, arrest me. Just like that. I thought that was cool. Like, he achieved what he wanted to achieve, and he's like, all right. I thought that was cool.
It's perfect. I mean, he was cleaning up his city. He was doing it in a really bad way, but he was still Harvey Dent. He was still trying to clean up the city. One
scene that I have to mention, because I really like it, is the last time you see Calendar Man, they shove a newspaper on his cell saying that other guy we talked about earlier, Falcone's son, was the killer, and you just see a panel of him standing in the dark, and you see his eyes are just all big, because he's like, that's not true. Because I think he pieced together who the real killer was.
When Dent breaks in to break out all the supervillains, and they just leave Calendar Man, he's like, sorry.
Oh, come on, guys! I want to have fun too, guys. Guys, come back! Oh,
he's really a minor. Like, he's such a minor character, I feel like, in normal stuff. Like, he's not known or anything.
Yeah, but like this one, you actually kind of feel for him.
Yeah, he's worried about his legacy because someone's basically taking his shtick and running with it. And he's like, people aren't going to remember Calendar Man soon. That's his whole
will. You have
worry.
to go see him every holiday to get that achievement.
I still don't have that achievement.
I will never get it.
I don't have that dedication.
One of these days, I'm going to do it.
You just cheat 360 is how you do it. So
yeah, there you go. Change the system clock.
That's what people did. They would disconnect from online, change the system clock, and get it, and that's how you do it.
And then we're finally getting to the end of it. After Harvey gets arrested, he says there were 2 holiday killers. And yeah,
sure there were.
Alberto Falcone confessed to all the holiday killers, But Batman's like, tonight was Halloween. Harvey Dent killed Batman, or the Roman with a 22. The last holiday murder. In the end, Harvey Dent was holiday 2. And we're supposed to be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, yes, but also no. And Jim Gordon says the good guys won. And you're just kind of like, yeah, but did they really?
Yeah.
Did they? And it was, oh God, it just ended on such a down note.
Yeah, I thought this was the end. Like, yeah, the good guys win, but at what cost? And it's going to be a little ambiguous until I guess into the last little bit of it. Which I don't know if we want to get there yet.
I think it's probably time.
We should get there.
Talk about the biggest kick in the nuts a comic has ever done to me. Like from the point that I still read this, like when I first read this, I was still young and into comic books. And I hadn't read a ton, but this was just an M. Night Shyamalan style kick to the balls. Like, I did not expect it. It hurt to see this play out.
Yeah, I would have guessed every other character that's been in this run so far before Gilda Dent.
Oh my God. And the fact that she did it because she loved her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
once
God.
work eased up, they'd have more time together, so she took matters into her own hands.
It's really good. And then she kind of explains how she only did a couple of the killings, and then other people took over for her after New Year's.
Oh, God. It was just... So she knows that Harvey killed some people before he was Two-Face. She killed some people. 3 holiday killers, not including Deadshot, probably. Oh, my God. And then the last line, just the last line of the comic book being, I believe in Harvey Dent.
It's really good.
Fuck. Oh my God. Like, this just hurt so much to read it when I was younger. Even now I'm getting a little misty-eyed just thinking about it.
It's still really good. It's definitely one of the best parts of this book. It got me really happy too when I got there.
This book is it's such a treasure from front to back. If the movie can capture even a quarter of the emotion and intrigue that this book does, it might go down as one of the best animated movies. I know the last time they did it a 2-parter, it was The Dark Knight Returns. And that was
really good. The 2-part is.
It was fun.
When I remember, I haven't seen it in over 8 years, or over 6 years, but I really liked it when I watched it. But then again, that mic was a different mic than you're talking to now. So,
like, I have my issues with the comic just because I didn't think it was a great comic, and the movie reflects that. The casting of Michael Emerson as the Joker in that movie was brilliant because Michael Emerson is a god among us.
I am going to reread it for the show at some point because I feel like I should, and I have a thing for Batman, I'm finding out. So, there's a lot of Batman episodes. There's going to be a lot of Batman episodes, I feel like.
That hit me at some time this year, too. Like, Batman's always just kind of been this secondary character. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But, like, I don't know if it was when I was replaying Arkham Knight or if there's something else that happened. It's like, man, I really like Batman. I found out very recently in the last couple of years that I really like mysteries, too. So his whole deal of being the greatest detective, I think, plays into my things I'm into. So, yeah, I'm with you there, Mike.
That's good because I have more planned on the show coming up. So,
and Batman to me, Batman is fine. He's a character. He does things, but his villains are so damn good.
That's what makes him such a good character too. Is that he has such a rogue gallery. I mean, you can't forget Condiment King and Kite Man. And I know
2 characters that show up in the animated Harley Quinn series.
Hey, Kite Man actually became cool in the Rebirth run. There's some stuff with Kite Man when we cover War Jokes and Riddles someday that really makes you like Kite Man.
Yeah, Kite Man.
It's only because I listened to another podcast that actually inspired me to start the show was Comic Conspiracy, and for some reason the host on there really likes Kite Man a lot, and that made me take more interest. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's onto something.
I mean, everybody likes somebody. At the end of the day, even Condiment King's got to be somebody's favorite character.
The guy who only read one Batman book? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, Polka Dot Man.
Who's going to be in the new Suicide Squad movie?
Hey, I am so excited for that Suicide Squad movie.
It's going to be good, I think.
I wish I could see who the actor was that they got to play Peacekeeper. I mean, they said Peacekeeper in the trailer, but I didn't see anybody playing him. Because John Cena. Get it?
I forgot that's who it was.
Is it really? I didn't know.
Yeah, it's really John Cena.
It's going to be a very interesting movie, I think.
Oh,
it's got James Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be good.
Yeah,
all these D-list villain talk makes me think of the opening to Lego Batman, where Joker's listing off all these characters, and the guy's like, "Did you make some of those up?" It's like, "Nope, they're all real. Might be worth the Google."
I really liked Lego Batman. I thought that was a fun movie.
Yeah, it's good.
It is a good movie.
That's a movie you should cover on this, Mike.
It's a better movie than Dark Knight Rises. We are someday going to cover the Batman again someday after we finish, or that little trilogy after we finish all the MCU movies, whenever the hell that happens. Someday, but fucking
next year.
One of these days, when you guys get around to doing those, I would love to be part of those, because I will actually defend Dark Knight Rises to a point, only to a point, because it's clearly the worst of the three.
Yes, it is. All right, but for Long Halloween, I really did like that. Oh, and for those that what it's supposed to be is it's supposed to be Gilda killed the first 3 or 4 people. Harvey Dent kills 2 people or so, or 2 sets of the killings, and then the Alberto kills a couple people, and I think they become the 3 killers throughout the whole thing.
So I figured that Alberto orchestrated his own killing.
He just fakes his own death.
Yeah, I mean, he kills the coroner and his aunt to cover it up because she goes snooping through the coroner's files. And they spell that out. But beyond that, I think he's just trying to take credit because he wants to look like a big boy in front of his daddy.
Yeah, that's all.
He's like, you didn't think I could do this. Now I'm bigger than all of you put together. He's just taking the credit for everyone else's killings.
Yeah. And, he's honestly, he doesn't have a great reason for killing, but it's not awful.
Yeah, she started the killing spree until Christmas Eve while destroying the gun and Holiday's disguise she used. Alberto Falcone faked his death on New Year's Eve, used Holiday's MO in order to take the place of the killer. Also, in Chapter 13, Two-Face revelation indicates that he knew since the beginning that Gilda was Holiday, and hence his refusal to investigate the Holiday murders, focusing more on the Falcone case.
Oh.
And also, spoiler to Dark Victory we're never going to read on this show, during those events, the sequel to Long Halloween, Two-Face is enraged when Calendar Man refers to Holiday as a woman. This is a natural reaction considering that Gilda was Two-Face's wife.
Huh.
Well, now I'm going to have to read Dark Victory. Fucking thanks.
Hey, feel free to read it. I mean, it just won't be on this show, but feel free to read it. It might be, because I do like my Batman, but I don't know.
Yeah, and, Scarecrow Man apparently, or Scarecrow shows up in Dark Victory. Calendar Man shows up in Dark Victory.
You're not giving me villains that I want to read about. I do like Scarecrow. I don't like you take in this. Hey, find me you give me Scarecrow in the Arkham series, I'm all on board. You give me the right Scarecrow, I'm 100% on board.
It was an Arkham Knight, your favorite.
Yeah.
Okay, that game is really good whenever you're not in the Batmobile.
Oh, I like the Batmobile.
Batmobile's I thought that was pretty fun.
I do need to replay it though. So when we'll get there on the show someday because we're covering Arkham Asylum not too far after you.
Yeah, sooner than you think.
And then I don't know when the hell we're playing Arkham City because we did not pick it that follow. So I don't know when that's coming.
Well, maybe by then the new not Rocksteady. What was the other one? Arkham Knights or something like that.
The Bat-Fam game.
Yeah. Is that Court of Owls based?
It's Court of Owls, yeah. That's why I'm a little upset that Court of Owls file got corrupted and I have to re-record that. But yes.
Oh, that's fine. Court of Owls is good, and not having Batman in a Court of Owls game is sacrilege.
Oh, I'm sure he's in it. I'm 100% sure he's in it. So.
Oh, just like Captain America's not in the Avengers game that just came out because he dies at the beginning.
Dies or air quotes?
Air quotes dies. Yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Spoiler.
I mean, he's on the cover of the case.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those, certain things a character is going to be in. You don't have a Batman game without Batman. It's like, yeah, sure, he's dead. Sure he is. He's just, probably out of the story for a little bit. Like, I mean, you would never think you'd have a Metal Gear Solid 2 game without having Snake in the whole game. I mean, that would never happen, right?
Yeah, it's like making a Venom movie without Spider-Man.
Yeah, that never happened.
Hey.
I haven't seen it yet.
Watch it.
Fine.
It's great.
All right, any last things we should say about Long Halloween before we go to Shelf or Box?
Basically, I'm just gonna say read it. Like, it's long. I'm not gonna lie. It's long, but it is absolutely worth it. It does show that really good mix of Batman and Bruce Wayne in a way that other comics really don't focus on a lot. A lot of times people just focus on Batman, but this kind of shows that Bruce Wayne's got problems too. And the trio of Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent and Batman all working together, very reminiscent of a certain movie that I'm not going to talk about anymore.
Why stop now?
Yeah, I mean, fine. It was the same scene in The Dark Knight. And like, if you like The Dark Knight, go out and read this. You're going to dig it.
Just don't expect a whole lot of Joker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's enough Joker in this, though.
Yeah.
I didn't need any more Joker.
Joker's great, but man, is he overused in Batman stuff.
Mm-hmm. And this just good amount of Joker. Not much. Just comes around, acts like fucking crazy, and then disappears again.
Yeah.
Until New Year's.
As he should.
Until New Year's, where he's shoehorned in for some reason.
Yeah. But that scene where he shows up in Harvey Dent's house, that's pretty good. And we did kind of skip over that.
Yeah, he doesn't even do anything. He just goes in his house, kind of beats the shit out of him, and leaves.
Yeah. But they have a nice talk. They chat.
He just wants to know who Holiday is.
Yeah. Everybody wants to know who Holiday is. So Joker beats up Holiday.
One of them.
Yeah.
That's some cool moments.
Agreed.
All right, I think we should go to Shelf or Box.
All right.
And I'll go first because I want to.
It is your show.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So I'll go first. I'm actually going to put this on the shelf. I know I've been bad mouthing it off and on throughout this, but partly because I was playing a character of myself and I'm very, very tired at the moment. But I do like this. Like, I think it's a good comic. It's just after reading Batman Rebirth with Tom King and then trying to reread this, it makes this look like shit compared to Tom King. Not that this is shit. This is a great, great book. But Tom King's Batman's on a whole nother level. So that didn't help me. Don't do that. Do not do that before you record a podcast. Not a good idea. But it's very good. Like, it's still a very good book. It's a very good story. I was entertained my first time reading it. I didn't want to put it down. I read all of it in one day. I had to know what was going on. I just could not stop. And to me, that's something impressive when a book does that to me, because normally I don't get that into it. And I was really into it. So it's going on the shelf. I see why people consider it one of the best Batman stories of all time. It's up. If you look up Batman stories list, this comes up near the top always. So there is that, and I can completely understand why people say that. How about you, Mike?
Like we said at the top of the episode, like the mob stuff is not my cup of tea when it comes to Batman, superheroes in general, but Batman especially. But about probably half an hour into that video we keep talking about, when I realized this is basically a long whodunit, I was totally on board because I've become a big sucker for that thing, Agatha Christie and all that stuff. The supervillains, I feel like they could have done more with, or just taken them out altogether because they don't add a whole lot. Like, I think Catwoman's only there to be a red herring the whole time because she's one of the people that Batman thinks might have done it.
Yeah.
But, like, that big reveal, as we said at the end, is huge. And if it can make me feel anything, then it definitely did its job. So it's going on the shelf for me, too.
Okay. And we'll end with the most positive that we can. How about you, Kenneth?
Well, if I hadn't made it abundantly clear, this is definitely going on the shelf for me as well. Not only is it going on the shelf, it's going on its own shelf. This was one of the first Batman stories that I've read through start to finish. I'd read a couple issues here or there, but this was one of the first big narratives that I read when I was younger, and I was astounded. The way it used everybody, I thought was really great. This gets a shelf with accent lighting, and why not? We'll seal it in a nice case so it doesn't get messed up, too. It's a museum piece for me. go read this. It's one of my favorite Batman stories ever.
Okay. And you're the only reason why this episode is still here, or it happened today. It is your fault that we read this book, which I'm okay with.
So if any of y'all out there listening to this podcast have a problem with it, please direct your inquiries to me. I will happily take all of your letters.
But notice how he didn't give you an email address for anything. So,
oh, I will.
But feel free to email gamesmymomfun@yahoo.com. I don't read the emails that often, but I will every so often. I will sometimes. It's really.
And if you want to at me on Twitter, it's at Professor Sanity. I will happily read all your hate mail. It gives me life.
Okay, and I think that's about wraps up this episode. So I hope you enjoyed our Spooktober, our as Mike put it last week, or maybe some point, Spooktember and Spooktober. That's how we should call it. Because we started spooky in September, mid-September, when this started with Alan Wake, and we are just finishing up. Because this, if everything goes right as planned, you were hearing this a few days before Halloween. We figured that'd be perfect how to end this Spooktober for 2020, the year that never ends, with a long Halloween. The Halloween never ends. Perfect way to wrap up 2020, right?
Hopefully it doesn't go all the way till next Halloween.
It better not. 2020 better not. Can't happen. Don't say those things.
It's already overstayed its welcome.
Yes. All right. God, what the hell is I going to... Damn, I'm tired. If you enjoyed this episode, we have tons of others for you to check out. Check out all our spooky episodes that we did this month. There's a ton. You're sure you're going to find something you like. We do comics, movies, games. So definitely check out all the other episodes. If you enjoyed this Batman episode, we did Batman with Joker, Death of the Family a long time ago, so definitely check that out. And there'll be more Batman stuff coming up soon. Even we're going to be covering one of the best Batman games ever made, Arkham Asylum, here soon. So definitely check that out. And if you enjoyed this show, tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell anybody. Make a Facebook post. Let people know. It's a great way to support the show just by telling people that you enjoy this show. Just spreading our name out there and help get more people listening, and we'll do more with the show eventually. I got big plans. Also want to give a shout out to our awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Bowie, a.k.a. Mike Stoney from his EP Bite the Bullet, Song of the Cool Kid Squad. I interviewed him not too long ago. Check that out. That came up in September. And I want to thank Kenneth for coming on the show. We will see him again because we're going to cover Court Owls at some point. I'm going to say it on here, so I have to do it. At some point, we're covering Court Owls.
And the Nolan trilogy.
And the Nolan trilogy.
And Lego Batman.
Made two of those movies. I don't know what
and
you're
Lego
talking about
Batman.
Trilogy. We'll cover those someday. Once I finish MCU, I'll be more open to other things. Once that crazy idea I had earlier this year. Hey, we should watch all MCU movies. So,
and by the time you finish with that, we'll be ready to cover the long Halloween cartoon movie that's coming out.
Oh yeah, and the Scooby-Doo movie coming out that has Scarecrow in it for some reason.
Because why not?
Kind of does fit.
By the time people hear this, it's already out. It comes out October 6th.
Oh yeah, they won't hear this till October 20th something, 28th or so, 27.
Yeah,
sure. I looked it up.
It might be good, question mark.
Can't be better than Scooby-Doo Zombie Island you keep trying to sell me on.
The movie's great.
Sequel, not so much. But the original.
God. There was no sequel.
Okay.
A lot of sequel deniers here. A lot of sequel.
And if you enjoyed this, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm constantly posting images of what's upcoming on the show and the new episodes as they get released. So definitely follow us on there. And I think and we're Game My Mom Found. Just search Game My Mom Found. You'll find us. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to shoot me a message on Game My Mom Found on Facebook. I will answer all of them, usually pretty quickly. I've talked to a few people. I have listened to your recommendations. Somebody did recommend Paper Mario. Someday we're going to cover it, just not yet, but it's going to happen. I don't remember who you were. It's been a while but if you're still listening, someday we're going to cover it. It takes a while. RPGs are not easy to do in this with the format of this show. They are a pain. But luckily, Mike is up to doing that because he's crazy like me. So
yep, we're crazy.
It works out. All right, I think that about wraps up this episode. I have said a lot. All right, we will talk to you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
So long.